When I get a vehicle in, I like to just spend time with it. Stuff that you don't necessarily see on the show because it's time consuming and it would be boring for a viewer. You know, that's definitely doesn't make for good TV.
Counting cars just showed up and quietly took over TV nights. No warning, no noise, just pure engine revs, wild custom builds, and somehow it became addictive. It was the vibe, the personalities, the deals that could go left at any second. But here's the part nobody saw coming. After 10 solid seasons, it just stopped. No grand finale, no proper goodbye. 1 minute, it's everywhere. The next, silence. So, what really happened behind the scenes? Because the truth, it's messier, deeper, and way more shocking than anyone expected. Stick around, this gets wild fast. The rise of Danny Koker and the birth of Counting Cars. Danny Koker's path into reality television came through Pawn Stars, where a natural passion for classic cars and motorcycles turned casual appearances into something far more noticeable. Conversations around vintage engines, rare builds, and restoration details carried a certain energy that stood out immediately. That gravelly voice, that rock and roll look, and that deep knowledge created a presence that felt authentic rather than staged. Ever wondered how someone walks into a show full of negotiators and collectors and somehow becomes the one people remember most? That presence did not come from acting. It came from years of hands-on experience and a real connection to automotive culture. Before any television spotlight, Count's Customs already had a strong reputation. Custom builds, restorations, and detailed craftsmanship kept business steady, with classic cars and motorcycles rolling in and out of the shop regularly. Work inside that garage involved more than just fixing engines. Metal shaping, paintwork, design decisions, and long hours formed part of daily operations. Each project carried its own personality, and each client came with expectations. That kind of environment naturally builds stories. Think about it for a second. How many shops can turn everyday repair work into something people actually want to watch? Television producers noticed something special in that mix of personality and expertise. History Channel recognized an opportunity that went beyond a simple guest appearance. A spin-off idea began to form, built around cars, creativity, and strong personalities working under one roof. That idea turned into Counting Cars, which made a debut in 2012. Placement as a third spin-off from Pawn Stars, following American Restoration and Cajun Pawn Stars, created certain expectations. Would another spin-off actually hold attention, or would interest fade quickly? That question lingered at the beginning. What made this show different became clear almost immediately. Instead of focusing only on transactions or historical items, attention shifted toward people inside the shop. Conversations, disagreements, decisions, and creative clashes became just as important as engines and paint jobs. Every build came with pressure. Deadlines often felt tight, budgets sometimes looked unrealistic, and client demands could push limits. Sound familiar? That tension created moments that felt real. Not every plan worked smoothly, and not every conversation stayed calm. That unpredictability added a layer of excitement that went beyond mechanical work. A typical episode followed a simple structure. A client would bring in a classic vehicle, sometimes a rare find, sometimes a forgotten piece needing serious work. Evaluation would begin, followed by discussions about cost, timeline, and design direction. From there, transformation would take shape inside the shop. Metal would be cut, parts would be replaced, and ideas would evolve. But nothing ever stayed purely technical. Negotiations could turn intense, creative opinions could clash, tempers could rise. Ever wondered what happens when passion meets pressure in a confined workspace? That mix often leads to moments that feel unpredictable and engaging. At the center of everything stood a clear vision. Focus remained on showcasing craftsmanship while keeping things entertaining. Restoration work is detailed and sometimes slow, so adding personality and interaction helped maintain energy. That balance between skill and storytelling became essential. Without that human element, would a car restoration show hold attention for long? Probably not. That understanding shaped how episodes unfolded. Building a strong team played a huge role in making everything work. Skilled professionals joined the shop, each bringing a different strength. Kevin Mack became a key figure as a lead fabricator, known for precision and creativity. Other mechanics and specialists contributed in areas like engine work, detailing, and customization. Each person added a unique dynamic. Personalities did not always align perfectly, and that created moments of tension. But that same tension often pushed projects forward. Isn't that how many workplaces operate? Different ideas, occasional disagreements, and a shared goal at the end. As episodes continued, a pattern of success started to emerge. Viewers connected with both the machines and the people behind the work. Seeing an old, worn-out vehicle transform into something impressive created satisfaction. At the same time, watching conversations unfold inside the shop added another layer of interest. That combination turned out to be powerful. Some viewers came for the cars, others stayed for the personalities. Many ended up enjoying both. Ratings began to climb steadily. What started as a spin-off quickly developed its own identity. Popularity grew, and the show carved out a strong place within the network's lineup. Becoming one of the most watched programs on History Channel did not happen by accident. Consistency in content, engaging personalities, and a clear concept all played a part. Ever noticed how some shows fade after a strong start, while others keep building momentum? This one managed to hold attention over time. Another interesting aspect involved authenticity. Reality television often faces questions about what is real and what is staged. In this case, genuine expertise helped maintain credibility. Years of experience in automotive work showed through every project. Mistakes, challenges, and unexpected issues did not feel forced. That authenticity built trust with viewers. Without that trust, would long-term success even be possible? The setting also played a role. A busy custom shop naturally creates a backdrop full of movement and energy. Tools, vehicles, conversations, and constant activity filled each scene. That environment made every episode feel alive. Compared to quieter formats, this approach kept things dynamic. No long stretches of inactivity, no dull moments, just continuous action and interaction. Over time, recognition extended beyond regular viewers. Car enthusiasts, casual fans, and even people with little knowledge of automobiles found something to enjoy. That wide appeal helped expand reach. Not every show manages to attract both niche audiences and general viewers. This one found a way to do both. Looking back, a simple chain of events led to something much bigger. A few appearances on Pawn Stars opened a door. A successful custom shop provided a strong foundation. A network saw potential and took a chance. A show was created that combined craftsmanship with personality. And from there, a strong following developed. Isn't it interesting how a mix of skill, timing, and personality can quietly turn something as ordinary as daily work into a story people everywhere can't stop watching? What starts in a simple garage, surrounded by tools, grease, and classic vehicles, slowly grows into something much bigger than anyone expected. No loud tricks, no forced drama, just steady effort, sharp instincts, and a real understanding of what keeps people coming back for more. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. What really went on when the cameras weren't rolling? Stay right here, because the real story begins behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. Behind all that polished screen time, plenty of tension quietly built up in ways that felt far more serious than any scene shown on television. Casual fans saw creativity, flashy builds, and big personalities. But conversations behind closed doors carried a very different tone. Money issues, trust problems, and legal trouble slowly crept into daily operations, and each situation left a mark that could not simply be edited out or reshot. Take the situation involving Joseph Frontiera. That name alone started raising eyebrows once details began to surface. A skilled restoration expert, brought into Count's Customs in 2013, initially looked like a solid addition to the team. Work appeared smooth at first glance, But behind that surface, something else was quietly unfolding. Reports later revealed accusations of embezzlement, with a figure close to $75,000. That amount alone made people pause. Questions started forming immediately. How does that kind of money disappear without notice? How long had activity like that been happening? According to filings, funds were allegedly used for personal expenses. A Range Rover purchase came up in discussion, along with airfare costs. At that point, suspicion turned into something heavier. A business known for craftsmanship suddenly found itself dealing with claims of financial misconduct. Even more troubling, allegations suggested forged signature stamps belonging to Danny Koker and Kevin Mack. Checks reportedly signed without permission raised serious concerns about internal oversight. That detail alone made everything feel less like a simple misunderstanding and more like a calculated move. Dig a little deeper, and another layer appeared. Court records pointed to a past involving similar issues. Previous employment in Florida had already included fraud and embezzlement accusations. That discovery made everything harder to ignore. A pattern started to emerge, and once a pattern shows up, doubt becomes impossible to shake. At that stage, removal from the show became inevitable. Presence connected to Frontiera disappeared almost overnight. Official records no longer reflected involvement, and even listings on platforms like IMDb quietly erased that chapter. That kind of scandal does not just fade away. Damage to reputation sticks, especially in a business built on trust and craftsmanship. Customers expect honesty when handing over large sums of money for restoration work. Once words like fraud and theft enter conversation, confidence begins to crack. Even loyal followers start asking uncomfortable questions. If something like that could happen once, what stops another situation from happening again? Another situation added even more strain, this time involving Scott Jones. Early seasons featured Jones as a project manager, someone who helped keep builds on track and clients satisfied. Departure happened quietly, with no major announcement, which already felt unusual. Silence often carries meaning, especially in situations where clarity would normally help. Soon after, a legal issue surfaced involving a restoration project that did not go as planned. A 1967 Ford Mustang Coupe became the center of that dispute. Commission came from Jeanette and Paul Hurt, who reportedly paid $50,000 for restoration work. Agreement included promises tied to television exposure, along with suggestions that production involvement might help offset costs. That kind of offer sounds attractive. Who would not want a classic car restored while also appearing on a popular show? Problems began once work stalled. Delays stretched longer than expected, and expenses continued to rise. Eventually, results failed to meet agreed specifications. At that point, frustration turned into legal action. A lawsuit followed, citing breach of contract and failure to deliver on promises. That situation added another layer of tension to an already fragile environment. A single failed project might be manageable, but combined with other controversies, pressure started building quickly. Consider how situations like these affect daily operations. Staff members working under constant uncertainty often struggle to maintain focus. Trust becomes harder to establish, especially when financial misconduct enters conversation. Every transaction starts feeling like something that needs double-checking. Every signature carries weight. That kind of atmosphere changes how people work, even if no one openly admits it. Reputation also takes a hit beyond immediate business concerns. A television show relies heavily on public perception. Fans want authenticity, skill, and reliability. Once controversies surface, perception shifts. Instead of focusing on impressive builds, attention moves toward behind-the-scenes drama. That shift can be difficult to reverse. Even strong episodes struggle to distract from ongoing issues. Questions naturally follow. Could better internal controls have prevented financial misconduct? Should earlier background checks have raised concerns about past behavior? What about communication with clients during complicated restoration projects? Each question points toward areas that may have needed stronger oversight. At the same time, situations like these highlight how quickly things can spiral. One controversy alone might be manageable, but multiple issues happening close together create a ripple effect. Staff changes, legal disputes, and public scrutiny all combine to form a challenging environment. Stability becomes harder to maintain, and every new problem adds more pressure. Another interesting point involves how quietly some exits happened. No dramatic farewell, no detailed explanation, just sudden absence. That kind of silence often leads to speculation. People start connecting dots, sometimes accurately, sometimes not. Lack of clear communication can create even more confusion than a straightforward explanation. Despite all this, business operations continued. Projects still moved forward, cars still got restored, and episodes still aired. That raises another question: how does a business manage to keep functioning under that level of pressure? Strong leadership might play a role, or perhaps a dedicated team determined to push through challenges. Either way, resilience becomes part of the conversation. Still, lingering effects cannot be ignored. Trust, once shaken, takes time to rebuild. Clients become more cautious, fans become more observant, and internal processes often undergo changes to prevent future issues. Lessons usually come at a cost, and in this case, that cost included legal battles, reputational damage, and significant stress behind the scenes. Looking at everything together, a clear pattern emerges. Behind every polished moment on screen, real-life complications can run much deeper. Financial disputes, legal challenges, and unexpected departures create a version of reality that rarely makes it into final edits. That contrast between what appears on screen and what happens behind the curtain often tells a much more complex story. And really, one simple question lingers after hearing all this, sitting quietly at the back of the mind long after the headlines fade. When cameras stop rolling and all the attention slowly disappears, what actually keeps a business standing strong in the middle of chaos, pressure, and growing doubt? Because behind the polished image and confident statements, there is often a different story waiting to surface. And just when everything seems steady on the outside, cracks begin to show in ways no one expected. That is where things take a serious turn. Stay right here, because what comes next reveals the legal battles and customer complaints that changed everything. Legal battles and customer complaints. Conversations around counting cars often sounded very different once cameras stopped rolling. What looked smooth and exciting on screen sometimes clashed with what customers described behind closed doors. Talk around Count's customs kept picking up, especially after legal disputes started surfacing. At first, a few complaints seemed like isolated situations, but as more voices joined in, a pattern started forming that became harder to ignore. Reported accounts surrounding Frontiera and the Hertz opened a door into deeper concerns. That particular lawsuit raised eyebrows because of how quickly costs appeared to shift. An agreement reportedly started around $50,000, but confusion came from a restoration estimate jumping from $11,000 to $30,000. Questions naturally followed. How did such a jump happen without clear approval? Where did communication break down? Silence on those questions only made things feel more uneasy. Further frustration came from expectations tied to television exposure. A promised feature on the show was reportedly canceled, removing a major incentive for agreeing to the deal in the first place. Delays stretched longer than expected, and delivery did not match what had been discussed. Complaints described an incomplete project, leaving a sense that something important had been left unfinished. Refund requests reportedly went unanswered, and that pushed the matter into legal territory. At that point, a simple business disagreement had already turned into something much more serious. Outside of courtrooms, online spaces started filling with similar experiences. Reviews across different platforms painted a picture that felt inconsistent with the upbeat energy seen on television. Some customers talked about long wait times, while others mentioned unexpected charges appearing along the way. A few described communication that faded once projects were no longer tied to filming schedules. That raised a natural central question. Was attention being split between entertainment and everyday clients? Repeated comments suggested that vehicles connected to filming received faster turnaround and more detailed attention. Meanwhile, regular customer projects sometimes seemed to move slower. That kind of imbalance created frustration. After all, every customer expected a fair level of care, not just those connected to a camera crew. When expectations did not match reality, trust began to slip. Another issue that kept coming up involved clarity in pricing. Several accounts described initial quotes that later changed, sometimes significantly. Without clear explanations, such changes felt unsettling. A business built on craftsmanship and passion usually depends on strong communication. When communication becomes unclear, doubts naturally start forming. How could confidence stay intact when numbers kept shifting? Some voices defended the shop, suggesting that not every complaint told a complete story. Competitors, misunderstandings, and unrealistic expectations might have played a role in shaping certain reviews. That possibility always exists in any industry. Still, consistency in complaints stood out. Similar concerns appearing again and again tend to point toward deeper operational issues rather than random coincidence. Reputation often depends on alignment between public image and real experience. On screen, Danny Koker and team projected enthusiasm, creativity, and strong customer relationships. Cars came in rough and left looking incredible. Smiles, excitement, and quick turnarounds created an appealing narrative. Off-screen, reported experiences sometimes told a slower, more complicated version of events. That contrast raised an important question: how much of reality television reflects actual day-to-day operations? Editing, time compression, and storytelling can reshape events into something more entertaining. A project that takes months might appear completed in days. Conversations might be trimmed down or rearranged. While such techniques make for good television, real customers still live through actual timelines and actual costs. As more discussions surfaced, skepticism began to grow. Not necessarily about craftsmanship, since many vehicles completed by the shop still received praise for quality. Instead, skepticism focused on process and transparency. Could both things exist at the same time? High-quality work paired with inconsistent communication? That possibility seemed to sit at the center of many conversations. Trust in any service business depends heavily on clear expectations. When a client agrees to a price, that number becomes a reference point. Changes can happen, especially in restoration work where surprises often appear once a vehicle gets opened up. Still, clear updates and approval usually help maintain trust. Without that, even justified changes can feel questionable. Legal disputes tend to amplify existing concerns. Once a case becomes public, more people start paying attention. Past experiences that might have remained private begin to surface. Each new complaint adds another layer to the overall picture. Over time, a single lawsuit turns into a broader discussion about business practices. In this case, conversation around Count's customs shifted from admiration to cautious curiosity. Fans of the show still appreciated the creativity and passion displayed on screen. At the same time, potential customers started asking more questions before committing to projects. That kind of shift does not happen overnight. It builds gradually, one review and one story at a time. At the heart of everything sits a simple issue: expectation versus reality. Television promises excitement, speed, and flawless execution. Real life often involves delays, complications, and negotiation. When those two worlds collide, tension becomes almost unavoidable. Some customers likely walked away satisfied, enjoying both the experience and the final product. Others clearly did not share that outcome. Mixed feedback like that creates a complicated reputation, one that cannot be easily defined as entirely positive or entirely negative. In conversations about businesses tied to entertainment, a recurring thought often appears: does exposure help or hurt service quality? More visibility brings more demand, but also more pressure. Managing both can become challenging. Without strong systems in place, cracks can begin to show. By the time multiple complaints, lawsuits, and reviews entered public discussion, a broader narrative had already taken shape. A shop known for flashy builds and engaging television moments now faced deeper scrutiny about consistency and communication. That shift did not erase earlier success, but it certainly changed how that success was viewed. And that leaves one lingering thought. When a brand becomes larger than life on screen, how closely should real-world experience match that image? Danny Koker's revelation, the true reason. Counting Cars ended. After Season 10 aired in 2021, silence followed around Counting Cars, and that silence felt strange. A show with strong ratings, loyal fans, and a recognizable face like Danny Koker suddenly stopped without a clear goodbye. Naturally, curiosity grew. What really happened behind closed doors? Why would a successful series reach an unexpected stop like that? Danny later explained that several issues piled up over time, creating a situation that became difficult to manage. Legal trouble played a big role. Lawsuits connected to former staff and unhappy customers started building pressure. Each case added stress, not just financially but also in terms of public image. A brand built on trust and craftsmanship began facing questions. And once public trust starts shaking, recovery becomes harder. How many court cases can a production handle before things begin to crack? Internal tension also added fuel to the situation. Any long-running show often deals with disagreements behind the scenes. Creative differences, business decisions, and personal conflicts tend to grow over time. In a workshop setting like Count's Customs, where strong personalities and artistic opinions mix daily, conflict becomes almost unavoidable. One disagreement turns into two, then three. Suddenly, a once smooth operation starts feeling heavy. How long can a team stay united under constant pressure? Another issue came from content fatigue. Early seasons carried excitement. Fresh builds, unique restorations, and interesting client stories kept energy high. Over time, however, repetition started creeping in. Same style of projects, similar reactions, familiar outcomes. Viewers began noticing patterns. A car arrives, a transformation happens, a reveal follows. That formula worked for years, but eventually felt predictable. Can any format stay exciting forever without change? Danny admitted that keeping ideas fresh became harder with each season. Creativity does not run on autopilot. New concepts require time, energy, and risk. Reality television often struggles in this area because production schedules move fast. Constant filming leaves little room for reinvention. Without reinvention, audience interest slowly fades. That shift in interest does not happen overnight, but signs appear. Ratings fluctuate. Social media reactions change. Conversations lose intensity. At that point, producers start asking tough questions. Another layer came from changes in audience taste. Reality television itself has evolved. Earlier shows leaned heavily on drama, staged tension, and exaggerated reactions. That approach once attracted millions. Today's audience looks for something different. Authenticity matters more now. Real emotions, real struggles, and real stories carry more weight than scripted moments. When viewers sense artificial drama, engagement drops quickly. Was Counting Cars built for an earlier era of reality TV? That question quietly lingered in discussions. Danny acknowledged that expectations shifted. What worked in 2012 did not necessarily work in 2021. Social media also changed how audiences consume content. Short clips, behind-the-scenes footage, and direct interaction with creators became more important. Traditional episode formats started competing with faster, more personal content online. Keeping up with that shift required adjustments that were not easy to implement within an established show structure. Behind the scenes, controversies added another challenge. News about lawsuits and disputes reached the public, shaping perception. Even loyal fans began asking questions. Negative headlines can overshadow years of positive work. Once a show becomes associated with controversy, focus shifts away from craftsmanship and entertainment. Instead of discussing car builds, conversations center on legal drama. That shift rarely benefits a long-running series. Danny described the situation as a build-up rather than a single breaking point. No single event ended the show. Instead, multiple pressures combined over time. Legal issues, creative fatigue, internal conflict, and changing audience expectations all stacked together. At some point, continuing production no longer made sense. Ending the show became the practical decision, even if that decision disappointed many fans. Despite the end of the series, Count's Customs continued operating as a respected business. The workshop did not disappear. Custom builds, restorations, customers and client projects remained active. Quality craftsmanship still defined daily operations. Danny made it clear that television exposure helped grow the brand, but the business itself stood on real skill and passion for cars. That foundation did not vanish with the show's ending. The legacy of Counting Cars still holds weight in car culture. Many viewers discovered a deeper appreciation for restoration work through the series. Classic cars, custom designs, and mechanical creativity reached a wider audience. Inspiration spread beyond television screens. Younger enthusiasts entered the automotive world because of what appeared on that show. That kind of influence does not fade quickly. Reality television also felt the impact. Counting Cars contributed to a wave of shows focused on specialized skills and niche industries. Car restoration, pawn shops, and antique hunting all gained popularity during that era. The show helped prove that everyday work, when presented well, could become compelling entertainment. That formula continues to shape programming decisions today. Looking back, the ending feels less sudden and more understandable. A mix of pressure, change, and time created a natural conclusion. Nothing lasts forever, especially in entertainment. Trends shift, audiences evolve, and creative energy needs renewal. The real question becomes not why the show ended, but whether the show reached a point where continuation would have diluted original charm. Danny's reflections carry a sense of acceptance. No bitterness, no dramatic farewell, just a clear explanation of circumstances. Business continued, passion for cars remained strong, and a successful chapter came to a close. Fans may still wish for more episodes, more builds, more moments inside that workshop. At the same time, there is something fitting about ending before quality drops too far. In the end, Counting Cars left behind more than episodes. A mark on car culture, a recognizable brand, and a reminder that even popular shows face challenges behind the scenes. Success does not protect against change. Growth does not eliminate conflict. And sometimes, stepping away becomes the smartest move. So when people ask why the show stopped, the answer is not simple. Multiple factors came together at once. Legal battles, creative limits, shifting audience taste, and internal struggles all played a role. Each factor alone might have been manageable. Combined, those factors created a situation that pointed toward an ending. And maybe that raises another question. Would continuing under those conditions have truly satisfied fans? Or would a stretched-out version of the show have slowly lost what made it special in the first place? With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.